What's up, everybody? Welcome to From the Archive, the series in which I'm going to go through my personal stash, an archive of books, whether it's wargame related or not, and pick one and share it with you all, like talk about it, things of that nature. Over the years of being, a nerd and into this hobby and whatnot, I've amassed a collection of books, and for one reason or another, I tend to keep them, and whether or not I even really enjoy them, I just tend to keep them because I like physical, tangible books on stuff. And a lot of these books, pretty much all these books you're looking at here in one way or another, has helped shape my personal tastes, thoughts, and ideas when it comes to collecting miniatures in this wargaming hobby, maybe as direct inspiration or just something in the back of my mind. So I thought it would be cool as I unpack these things to share them with you. So what I'm going to do in each ramble, I'm going to pick one book kind of haphazardly, and I'm gonna go sit down at the table with you, and we're gonna look through it. I'm gonna give a basic thought synopsis on it, share my opinions on it, break it down a little bit, maybe look inside of it a little, and just talk about it, whether it's a novel, a codex, or a tabletop RPG book or whatever. So some of these books I have multiples of for some reason, not really sure why. Other books I do not, and it's just going to be some fun. I thought it'd be cool to kind of get some insight, perhaps, and share my thoughts on stuff that I have in my small little personal collection here, and for you all to share your thoughts as well on what I'm looking at when it comes to the book in question. What you have? Do you have the same book? What are your thoughts on it? And things like that. So this should be a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab one of these books, and I'll meet you at the table. Welcome back to the table. For this episode, I thought we'd tackle Cities of Death. Cities of Death was an expansion book for 40k. This came out in like 2006-ish or something like that. I forget which edition was around during that, or the edition to play, but it doesn't really matter because it's not applicable anymore. But it was cool extra rules for doing city fighting in 40k. You basically have this covered more or less with the rules for the current edition, but having just an extra layer of rules and specialness on top of it made doing city fight games or Cities of Death style games just extra and a little bit more special. So really cool though. It's this showcases really what you need to do to make some terrain and some ideas for scratch building to maybe do something like that, and build up your forces and do everything else. And on the cover is Vostrian Firstborn, I believe, tackling Tau. You can't even buy the Vostrians anymore, which is unfortunate. So let's just dive in and go forth and conquer, shall we? So this is a cool little art piece, kind of number to show you different type of weapons, what's going on, and in the battle. It could be inspiration for terrain, right? So this first section is black and white, and this is basically the rules, right, if you will, in terms of the rules of how to use terrain, background info, defining what type of terrain is what, such as intact buildings, city ruins, rubble, obstacles, and roads. Because yes, there are rules for intact buildings, because not every building is going to be bombed out necessarily. Going over city ruin footprints, custom terrain, using your city ruins, measuring distance, movement, and how to do all that for the game. This is, of course, assuming you know the main core rules of the game. So this is adding on top of that, which is pretty fun. Terrain, line of sight, and so on. So it was good to know, because if you were using a flamethrower style weapon and there's multi levels on the building, you have to kind of determine which level more or less, or do what you could, and is a way to go from there to add it and not make it be kind of silly. The big thing is laying out the terrain. So alpha and gamma level games are on a smaller 4x4 table, with alpha being a few buildings and gamma having it be a bit more packed, and omega is your standard size game table with a lot of terrain on it. And that's just a basic idea. You could easily just go above and beyond that if you and your opponent wanted to, right? You select the mission, roll for quarters, and so on and so forth. So once you have the basics understood about starting the game and playing the game, of City Fight. Then it goes over building your city, accessorizing your forces, stratagems and stuff like that. The fun stuff. So it shows examples of alpha and gamma here. They're the same size table, one picture just closer than the other, obviously. And you can see the difference in terrain on that alpha table versus the gamma. Really stepping up kind of the urban feel there. This is a cool shot, Photoshop, whatever, of the Eldar sniper taking out a guardsman there. Then go over city ruins, some ideas and inspiration for color, and of course building them. They go over battlefield details like obstacles and barricades and whatever else. Just really cool to have a little book like this that really goes into detail, because clearly they could have just sold these things, played it like normal, which you can and do, but I just liked the City Fight book a lot for this reasoning. I really like the construction tips too that they showcase here, and a couple other stuff they showcase throughout the book. But what I liked about it here is we get to see the basic kit being built, but then you see all the extra accoutrements and details that they add to enhance the realism of the rubble and terrain, such as the added extra debris up on this ledge, adding the plastic pipes and girders to add a level of realism of the floors and everything else, modeling sand, and even clipping away sections of the wall like they did over here in a haphazard way to further add to that realism. You can use those clippings as part of the debris on the ground. And when it's painted up, you can see it's not that you can't tell because they're just pipes and girders and whatnot, but it just feels more like you're looking at a truly bombed out building and not just the kit. Not that the kit's bad, but you get to further enhance it. And that's really cool that they showcase that. Building large buildings and even scratch building some stuff they go over, just some tips and ideas. Here's an Omega level table, standard 4x6 table that is packed quote unquote with terrain. You can even do more than this, and people have, and I've been in games with more than this, but just your typical Omega level game table, which is just really cool. I like urban rubble style of gaming. Here's an example city fighting army, both with what they're using to maximize their ability in city fight, and also in, when you look at some of the models, conversions and whatever else to really enhance it. Like, I really like the way they got that sergeant kind of like leaning out and running and shooting. This guy looks like he's pressed up against a wall, getting ready to turn the corner. Same thing over here with this sergeant. Just really cool, added little details and pieces to make this Iron Knights, I believe, chapter force really stand out. And of course, Lamb Raider, pretty good choice. Warwind for getting around the, lobbing stuff over, and a Lance Beater for speed. So that's pretty cool. Modeling details, of course, how to do some things and add little details to your rubble and whatever else. How to make some scratch built rubble. One thing that unfortunately happens with not just GW but companies in general as they get bigger and offer more stuff, how to make your own, they don't tend to showcase as much. They don't disregard it, but at least I don't think it's been showcased as much in the more recent editions that have happened in the past few. But that's just my opinion on that. But really cool stuff there. Then of course they have stratagems, picking a stratagem, choosing a key building stratagems. Like you make one a Medicaid facility, ammunition stores, and they have different rules for stuff, which was pretty cool. How to destroy city ruins, dangerous ruins, and armory stratagems. Just different types of stratagems, accompanied by cool art here. Then we have city fight missions, going over basically stuff such as maximum attrition, urban assault, fire sweep, domination, high ground. Just different ideas for missions, mission special rules, and what would count as scoring at the time and things like that. Special missions such as the Gauntlet and Relief Force and whatever else. Different type of force organization charts, when that was more of a big deal. Just a lot of really cool stuff, as well as designing new missions / your own missions. Another piece of art for a capital part of the city. this would make a pretty sick and really densely packed piece of terrain for sure, or terrain board, I should say. And then a little bit of fluff about the Battle for Polia. This is where we saw the bowstrings, I believe, and the Tau. The Palace of Thorns, this was Huron Blackheart's kind of like final stand palace battle thing. They go over that. Hades Hive, right? More classic stuff that we know about lore-wise, with Gaskell and everything. So that's here's a little summary about missions and whatever else, and then we get some cool city fight modeling. So ideas for doing different stratagems, and you can easily, like they show, as simple as painting a base up, or as complex as making these things up, which you could add to a building or to a piece of terrain if it's a terrain stratagem to make it be something more than just the terrain it is. They show stuff for Imperium as well as Eldar there, and other. I believe you see some other Xeno stuff later. I think, I can't remember. That's an old Wraith Lord. Armory stratagems representing different weapon types, such as this wrecking ball thing here. Converted buildings as stratagems, like I was talking about earlier. I like the little plating they put over the doors to try and reinforce stuff. Adding the banners in the back here. It's just a really cool added detail in pieces. I really like that. Terrain types such as Devotional Fountain here. Just really cool bits of inspiration for you to try and do yourself if you want to. A City Mag line, Manufactorum, Mechanicus Generatorum. Basing your models, they go over some ideas for basing to give it a real cool urban feel. Again, they don't need to showcase this stuff because this isn't product that they sell necessarily, but I like that they did. And they still showcase stuff like this at times. I like the water detail on the terrain here for the fountain, but it's just always nice to see this. And I feel like we got this more in 3rd, 4th, and 5th ed, and a little bit in 6th, and then sparsely after that. Here's another converted city fighting army for the Tau. We see a lot of just some Forward World stuff in there. Just really cool painted up idea of a Tau force for city fight with some auxiliaries and whatever else, with their own stratagem terrain piece thing there. It's a Tau version of an ammo dump stratagem, so that's kind of cool. And just really cool to see a Xenos force, especially a Tau Xenos force, just because they want to stay, they're not the one you think of for ripping through a city fight area and gunning things down at point blank, but they got to do it too. They can't just not do that. There's a cool converted model right there, getting ready to throw something, which is pretty cool. So yeah, cool stuff is cool all around. An Orc City, because it's not always the Imperium, and I love that they showcase this because it is always nice to get inspiration for doing orcish stuff or even just non-Imperium type of terrain basing. So this is really cool to see. Of course, you can use terrain kits from the Imperium and orcify it on top of just making your own stuff, but really nice just to see. And it works. It's an orcish city concept, which is always fun to think about, and you can really go however you want with that. I love this one though. This Imperial City is fantastic. Massive, massive board. Looks really cool. Would love the game on something like that. It'd be a nightmare to move things around, but it'd be awesome to look at in between the rounds. Just really, really cool. A lot of extra details and everything else. So, you can really go crazy with stuff like this. Not just for City Fight, but just in general. Or Cities of Death. And then just random pictures of models in a City Fight scenario. With the end being, of course, a massive thing of the Imperium v Chaos. Really cool book. Is it worth picking up now? Because you could probably find this online somewhere. Well, that's up to you. I paid $22 for it back in the day. I wouldn't say go much higher than that, really. It's not useful right now. It's a great source of inspiration, but I'm always wary of price gouging because it's old and out of print, right? It doesn't matter. It's not useful. You can't do anything with it. I would say I'd be willing to spend $30 to $35 depending upon what I was looking at for this book, and I wouldn't go much higher than that if I were you. I just say that because really cool to see. That orc city in there is almost worth it alone for the inspiration that way if you're an orc player or want to do something that's not Imperium based for terrain, right? Just to get the look at it and then inspired by it. But of course you could do Necron City, Tau, stuff like that. But don't get caught up in it and overpay if you are looking to buy it nowadays. I'm guessing you could find it though. You just have to do a little bit of digging. In any case, cool little book, a lot of fun to pace through. I thumbed through this book a lot actually because of the cool pictures and inspiration in there. I like it. It's really what got me inspired to try and just do more than just the basic posing for models in general was this book and seeing those sample armies. So anyways, with that said, do you own this book? Have you checked it out recently? Share it all in the comment sections down below. And until next time, take it easy.